bitches shaking the table.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Shaking the Table. This week, I have my lovely friends, Beza and Eden. Hi, guys.
Hi.
So, we about to do a serious episode, y'all. Let me pull the glasses down to the front of my nose because we are going to finally address post-grad depression. You guys have been asking me... Don't say woo-woo. What? People on Twitter...
Ironic, Lauren.
Okay, all right. I love the irony. But people on Twitter have been asking me to talk about this for like a month. And honestly, y'all, I've been putting it off because like talking about depression like really makes me sad. Obviously it will, right? But I don't know. Like I've been really trying to struggle to put this together. So like Beza and Eden basically like was like, no, we don't do it today. And I was like, yes, we're going to do it today, period. And then I tried to get out of it. And then I got myself back into it. So here we are on the mic, y'all. And we're just going to get right into it. So I guess we should start with like background. So you guys know that I graduated in 2017, but Beza and Eden, I want you guys to share when you guys graduated. And I guess if you want to share what you studied or whatever you can.
Okay, so I graduated last year, so May 2018. I studied environmental science and policy.
And I just graduated this year in May, and I studied Arabic.
What is post-grad depression? That's the first point we're going to talk about. I mean, I feel like the name kind of speaks for itself. After you graduate, you get really, really sad. Or maybe it's not even sometimes immediately after you graduate. There's like a 3 month buffer where you're like super excited, like, woo, I just graduated, I hate school. And then you're like, whoa, like, there's no more school? That's crazy. And yeah, you kind of slip into like this funk.
I feel like for me, I heard, because I had friends who graduated college like before me, and they talked about it. And they'd be like, oh, you know, like, don't be in a rush to graduate. Like, I don't know if you guys had this experience too, but like friends being like, oh, don't be in a rush to graduate. Like, the real world is scary. The real world is this. The real world is that. And I was like, oh, it can't be that bad. Like, yeah, I get sad, but like, it'll be all right. Like, I was trying to act like it wasn't going to happen to me. And I think like being that delusional was part of the problem too, because my post-grad depression, or I guess my feelings of like depression period, those started before I even graduated. So it wasn't like a post-grad depression. It was like you're about to graduate and you don't know what you're doing depression. Anybody else feel that?
Yeah, definitely.
I think... Oh, sorry. Continue.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No. Continue. Finish your...
Oh, well, I knew that I wasn't... Like, because everyone assumed that I would be working, like, at the State Department or something because I studied language. I studied critical language, but, like, that was really never what I wanted to do. I would just say, yeah, totally, because I didn't want to talk about it anymore. But, like, I know what I do want to do, but it's, like, going to be a hard transition considering I didn't study it in school. And it's not necessarily something you have to have a degree in, but you have to have some type of solid footing. So it's about, like, getting all that together while taking care of your other classes and stuff. And it was tough.
Yeah, I think mine was a little different because I feel like senior year, I was just so unbelievably busy. Like and I don't know if it was like on purpose that I was making myself busy, so I like didn't have to think about it. But I just like distracted myself with like other like not meaningless, but like smaller things senior year, and so I like didn't think about it at all. But it's actually crazy. So I think it was senior year or junior year. Two of my friends actually led a GBM on like post-grad life. And like the main thing they were talking about was how bad like their post-grad depression was. And they were really like open and like vulnerable to talking about it. And that's like the first time I'd heard of it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is going to happen to me. Like I'm going to graduate and be sad. And I'd like never heard about it before that. And so I think if I didn't have that GBM, I would be like, wow, I'm crazy. Like I'm going through this by myself. Like I'm the only person. So like, I'm so grateful that I went to that event because I really would have thought that I was by myself.
Yeah. And like going off of that, I think what made me want to do the poll on Twitter, because on my Twitter, I asked like, you know, the audience, what year did you guys graduate, or like, did you experience post-grad depression? Because I felt like when I was going through it, even though some other people like talked to me about it, I still felt like I was going through it alone. And so I wanted to just see, like you said, like, am I crazy, or was it just me? Or like, sometimes like 30 people could experience the same thing as you, but like if only 2 people talk to you about it, you're just like, does anyone else feel this? Is anyone else like going through this? So I just thought it was crazy, like how many responses I actually got. So first of all, thank you to all the people who responded. But I feel like I should just go through them, and then we can just like say, which ones, like we just talk to certain ones, like say little points or whatever. So the first one obviously was like a pretty simple question. Did you experience it? So I had over 100 votes on this one, and about 80% of the people said, yes, I did experience it. And that came down to like 82 votes of people saying, yes, they did. And then the rest was people saying, no, they didn't experience it. So I thought that was interesting, because I was like, okay.
That's a really high percentage.
Yeah, it's a really high percentage. But then also the people that said that they didn't, I was like, oh, okay.
Must be nice.
Right. Must be nice. That's a super high percentage. So that's crazy. And then I said, how long ago did you graduate? This got 95 votes. So the majority of the people said they graduated within 1 or 2 years, so around the same time as me. 37% of people say within the last year, so that would be you, Eden. And then 2 to 4 years, 20% of people. So it's a good mix of people that are responding. So that was good, because I was worried that everybody would be in the same group. I wanted to get a mix of experiences. So let's see. And then I asked who secured a job in their field immediately after graduating, and this one got 90 votes. So, dang, 61% of people said they did not secure a job in their field. Okay. And then I said, how long did it take for you to get the job that you wanted? So, less than 3 months. 23% of people said that it took them less than 3 months to get a job. 23% also said 4 to 6 months. More than 6 months to a year was 21%. And then more than a year was 33%. So they got the most votes. 33% of people said it took them more than a year to get a job in their field.
Wow.
That's crazy. And then I asked people, was the source of your depression career related? 59% of people said yes. 19% of people said no. And 23% of people said that they were unsure. Okay. This is a good question. Do you believe college efficiently prepared you for your future? 80% of people said 80% of people said no. 20% of people said yes. And I think that that's telling, because if it took 33% of people more than a year to get a job in their field, and you're also telling me that you experienced depression, and you also said the source of your depression is, assuming that all of these things are true, right? You're also saying that it has to do with a career. Like, why do we spend all this time going to college and taking these classes and stressing ourselves the hell out if we were going to leave college in 4 years in depth and still not be satisfied? Like, isn't that crazy to you?
Sad.
Oh my God.
Not where you want to be. That's really depressing.
I'm sad reading this. And so with that, I asked, did you feel pressure from your family or people around you to pursue jobs outside of your field after not getting one in your field? 68% of people said yes. 32% of people said no. This was interesting to me too. If you graduated more than a year ago, are you still experiencing post-grad depression today? 75% of people said yes. 25% said no.
That was the craziest one to me.
Yes.
I think out of all of them.
That one was interesting because I relate to that completely. I've definitely had 2 or more waves of post-grad depression, because I feel like it's peaks and valleys for me. Like, the valley was, graduating from college and, just feeling like I had everything together in school. Like, I was working 3 jobs. I was president of multiple organizations during my time. Like, I had so many friends. I had this award and that award. And then when it was all said and done, people are asking me, okay, so now what? I'm like, oh no. And then when I got a job, it was like a peak. And then when I realized that I like hated the position I was working, I was like, okay, valley. So it's like up and down. And so it's crazy that other people who, you know, graduated within the same time frame as me are still experiencing this and no one's talking about it.
Yeah, no, do you remember that? I sent a text in the group and I was like, at what point does post-grad depression just become depression? Because I was like, I've been gone for a minute. Like, am I good?
Yeah.
Or are we good? Because it's not me. I know it's not just me. But yeah, I'm like, are we good?
It's just weird because
on some serious stuff.
No, for real, because it's so weird to me that like, so we can talk about everything in under the sun on Twitter, right? Like we can make a joke out of everything, but when it comes to talking about like sadness or if someone's starting to tweet and they sound upset, it's like no one respond, like no one is having these conversations. And it's upsetting to me because like whenever I talk to people, even people that I'm like quote unquote close with, when it comes to talking about their depression and like their post-grad, you know, I couldn't, other than you guys, I couldn't get anyone to talk to me about this. Like literally everyone was like, it's too personal. I don't. And it's like, if we all feel like it's too personal, how can we help anybody? How do we know that we're not alone? If everyone is hiding it, if everyone is shoving it under the rug, if everyone is saying, I'll deal with it later, how are we healing? How are we growing? How are we, you know, it just like, it blows my mind.
Oh, yeah. So I think this episode is super important because, I mean, honestly, other than that one event that I went to, that general body meeting that I went to, you know, I've never heard anybody talk about it. And even at that event is when I found out that my friends were, you know, that was happening to them when they graduated.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just like, oh, wow, like I didn't know this was happening. I didn't know that you were like not okay for this long. Do you know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
I was like, it was really eye-opening. And I don't know, that's why I think it's important. Like, I mean, personally, like I can talk about myself, and I don't necessarily even think that mine was from one source. Like, I think it was like a combination of like 5 different stresses, like being back home and living with your family.
Oh, God.
And
speak on it.
And yeah, like I think that honestly, I hope they're not listening, but might have been one of my biggest stressors. Honestly, it was really, really hard. Like you're like by yourself. You're like, I'm this grown up, independent adult. I don't like, you know, I can come home when I want. I do that. Like, you know, you do everything for yourself when you're living by yourself in college. You're in an apartment with your friends, and then you come back and you're literally a child again, basically.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just so hard. Like the fighting gets to you, and then on top of that, you know, if you don't get a job right away, and it's not even like, oh, I need. It's like I don't even know what job I want.
Yes.
Like that was my biggest thing, because I studied environmental science and policy, and then I realized after that I wanted to get more into like the environmental health field, and I was like, oh my God, like how do I do this? How do I make this transition? Who am I? Like literally, just like everything was like felt like it was like crashing down. You know, you don't see your friends every day, so like. The support of, even if you're not talking about like your problems, like even the support of like laughing with people is like not there. It's just a lot of different things I think that that accumulate into one big thing, and you're like, wow, this kind of just sucks right now.
Yeah.
Like everything.
So Eden, let me ask you, because your experience is a little bit more fresh. How's that transition been for you? Because like literally you were in college like yesterday.
It's been weird because I moved out like immediately after I graduated. So I've been home since like May 26th probably. So like actually getting back into the swing of things and being used to being at home is really weird. Like I put off unpacking stuff because I was overwhelmed. I was like, I kind of felt like I lost a lot of privacy, and then the whole trying to find a job that I want, or like in my case an internship, because like since I didn't study it, I kind of have to build myself up, so I can't just like go for a salaried job. And then just like trying also not to get into another creative route with my photography, because this entire semester, like I don't think I really took any photos that I was proud of.
Mm-hmm.
And like it was just like really rough. Like I already struggled with depression, so it's not unexpected, but it's like still shitty to deal with. But it's getting better, I think. Like I've had a really good week. And like I'm finally getting some more structure in my life, which I think is key. Once you graduate, you're not really sure what your next plans are, because it's super easy to just like stay in your room and not do anything, which is what I was doing sometimes in like June and some of July, but now it's a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I think it was kind of necessary to go through to remind me like, okay, like I can never be in this position again, but it's also like hard to keep that mindset when you're actively going through it, because it's like the worst thing in the world. But yeah, that's basically how the last 2.5 months have gone. Yeah.
Child, you hate to see it. I think it's interesting too, like how you guys talked about like going back home as being part of it, because like we literally just talking about this before I cut the mic on, like how a lot of people's post-grad depression, like it can be career related, or like maybe it starts being career related and then it like starts spiraling into other areas of your life. Because for me, like I'm overly self-critical, so anything that I feel like I'm not succeeding in, I start to like be really nitpicky about like other aspects of my life. Cause I'm like, oh, if I don't have my career, let me make sure like every aspect, like my health is together, like my love life's together, my friendships are together. And I started to be like overbearing in a way, I guess, like emotionally, like just dumping my baggage onto my friends, or like if I was sad, I was being like super transactional, being like, oh, talk to me for an hour about this stupid ass problem that won't matter tomorrow. But like when other people were going to share, I'd be like, oh, let me call you back. Like I was being super trash. And then I like put all this time into the relationship that obviously was a stupid choice to make. And I didn't realize that at the time. So once all of these things started to come together, it was just like, yo, I'm literally like failing at every aspect of my life. Like I thought I was this amazing friend. Turns out I'm trash. I thought that I was in this amazing relationship. Turned out that was trash. Then I thought that I was like going to be this great like journalist. And then turns out I can't get a job. No one will hire me. And then I'm also going back home to live with my parents, who gave my room away to my little brother. So like literally, like I came home the day that I moved in, like they had nowhere to put my stuff. So my stuff was like near the dog. Like I'm not kidding. Like my clothes were piled up like in the den, like in tubs, because like my mom did not make space for me. And so just like coming into that environment of like, they've already got into the habit of just living in the house. And by they, I mean like my 2 siblings who are twins, and then my stepdad and my mom, like they had already gotten into the routine of like what it was like to live with just 4 people. So, me coming in and me being an extra mouth to feed, me being an extra person that they have to worry about coming in and out of the house or whatever. That was just weird. Cause like, when you're in courtyards, you pull up, you leave anytime you want to leave. Like Eden said, you want to go eat at 2 a.m., go ahead. You want to go to the bar with your friends, you want to go loonies, you want to do whatever, like you can do that. But having to check in and out was like something that I wasn't used to. So I was like getting into fights with my mom. Me and my mom like never really fought when I was a kid. Like we would just be like, okay, and it'll be done. Like we never really argued until I got back home. So that was weird for me too, because I'm like, damn, why are me and my mom arguing every day? Or why are me and my stepdad fighting? Or why am I like fighting with my little sister? Like this is dumb, And so I had all these aspects of my life that were just like falling apart. And for me, I'm always like the strong friend, the one that like is funny, the one that people are like, you guys come to me to be Iyamle, to like fix your problems. And I just felt like so broken, like I couldn't talk to anybody because if I did, like people would see me as weak. So that just made my experience like twice as bad because I wasn't willing to talk to anyone about it, and then I couldn't go home to a safe space. I don't know if you guys can relate to that too.
Definitely. Definitely, yeah. I don't think that, like, with the exception of, like, probably Mesu, I feel like all of my friends are like that. I like Lauren. And so I feel like, yeah, it's really hard because it's like even, like, you're like, oh, yeah, I'm feeling really sad. And then you're like, oh, are you good? And then you're like, oh, yeah, lol, it's fine. Like, you're, like, trying to play it off, like, oh, yeah, it's fine. Like, it'll pass. Like,
Literally.
it's good. Yeah, because you're like, it's not that deep. Like, don't think about it. Don't think about me.
That's my aesthetic. My aesthetic is not that deep. And it's like, it is. Like, you need to process that emotion.
No, yeah. And I don't know. Also having, you know, immigrant parents, you know, that really fuels the fire.
Oh,
too.
my God.
Because
tell a Caribbean mom you don't have a plan, bro. You're done.
You don't have a plan. You're also, it's like, you want privacy. What's that?
No, they don't know what privacy is.
What's privacy? Literally, what is privacy?
Yeah. Oh my God. And then like I moved in with my Nana like halfway through last year too. So I was commuting like 92 minutes each way to go to work.
Oh my God.
So these are the untold stories. Huh?
Because it was better living with her?
Yeah, it was a better living situation. Yeah. So like that.
I think.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say I think that like something we like kind of talked about it, but not really. So like a lot of people think the source of their original, I guess, post-grad depression starts from like their career, then it kind of like spirals into like who am I? Like what am I doing? Like everything, like nothing's going right for me, and then like they think. Okay, like once you get that job, once you get into that grad school, once you get that internship, you're like, my life's going to be good. And then you get that job, get into that school, and then you're like, why am I not like how I was before? Like you think everything is just going to kind of fall into place, and then it doesn't, and you're like, what do I do now? So I think that's why a lot of the people that like have the responses that are like, oh yeah, like I graduated literally a year or 2 years ago and I'm still struggling with post-grad depression is because they think that like those they're not superficial things, but those things are going to solve whatever problems that they have going on internally because they haven't tried to actually like delve deep into like why they're feeling the way they're feeling.
And going off of that too, the last question I asked people, have you sought therapy? If you did say that you suffer from it, have you sought therapy? 79% of people said no.
Yeah, that's a no for me.
And what's interesting? I'm sitting here talking to y'all about it, but I'm in that 79%. Literally, I'm like, let me chat with y'all. Because I appreciate the people who are not in denial. Like, this is where I think my depression is coming from. Let me talk to somebody about it. But for me, there's absolutely no excuse why I don't take an hour of my day to go and sit and talk to somebody. But I think that my issue is like, it's easier for me to like, make a quick joke or be like, oh, this too shall pass or whatever. Just like to say a little like euphemism or whatever the term is to, just make it go away, But it's like the more I run away from something, the more I feel like I'm going to run into it. So, like, I don't know, guys. Maybe it's time.
I remember one time, I think about this all the time. One time in high school, I got into, like, a huge fight with my parents. And, like, I don't know what happened, but I was like, Mom, I want to go to therapy. Shorty looked at me, and the laugh that she let out, I've never forgotten that to this day. Like, every time someone talks about therapy, I just think about that time she really laughed at me, like, in my face. And I'm like, damn, I'm really a joke to you.
Aww.
And I don't know, like, just like, I feel like it's too many logistical things to get a therapist. Like, so many things I have to figure out. Like, where takes my insurance? And therapists, like, they fill out very quickly. Like,
I know.
actually free.
But at this point, like, I don't know. I just feel like if now that we know like what the problem is, and now that I know like that this, like, having depression in general is hard, but like having depression related to, or like, I guess that comes from not feeling secure in the field that you want to be in or whatever. Now that you know that that's the issue, I feel like it's easier for you to talk about it. Because it's different if you've never heard of post-grad depression and then it hits you. You're like, fuck, what's happening? But like, if you know, why not like talk to people about it? I don't know. Why haven't I? Like, this is less of a like you guys question and more of like me dragging myself. Like, why am I like this? I don't know. But I wanted to ask y'all about this part because somebody had brought it up to me about social media and how social media plays into post-grad depression. What do you guys think about that?
Honestly, I don't think I ever like looked at somebody's Instagram and like seen them at work or like seen them have a good time and like feel bad about myself. Honestly, I feel like I don't really see that argument in myself, at least, or like anybody that I know.
Mm-hmm.
But I do see people say that a lot. Honestly, social media has kind of like, in a way, at least Twitter, I don't know if really about Instagram, but like it's kind of made it like not like kind of easier for me. Like when you see like, especially the community that I'm in on Twitter, I feel like I'm like part of Twitter that like openly talks about like oh, I went to see my therapist. Oh,
yeah.
Like I'm really like in a different part of Twitter than some other people, and so like I really appreciate that. Like I saw one of my friends tweet like something the other day about like, oh, she saw her therapist, and then like it was like some really funny conversation.
I think for me, Twitter, like it has always been that like safer space because more people are open to be like, yeah, I'm sad too. What we gonna do about it? Like, I don't know, the vibe of like my Twitter is, millennials who are willing to share those experiences. Be like, y'all, let me tell you about what my therapist said to me, or like, people are more willing to drop gems in terms of like healing and like self-care and, just dealing with tough experiences. Whereas on Instagram, I feel like people mask that a lot. Like,
I agree. I think Instagram is very like one-dimensional.
It is.
And it's very flat.
Yeah, for sure. Because a lot of people, because at first we were like, oh, we're not going to use Insta Story, like we're going to use Snapchat. And then Rihanna was like, forget Snapchat. And we were like, yeah, it's Instagram. And I think that's what made it worse too, because not only are you sharing like short moments of your life on the timeline, like photos of you like on a boat, because that's the new thing now, right? Or you're like, having a good time traveling to different countries or whatever. But you also can show your life on the Insta Story. And so like you seeing that all over your timeline every day, especially now that people are in vacation season, it's just like, it's harder because you're like, me working so much, like working the weekends. Every weekend I get on Instagram and I see people like at brunch and at day parties, and I'm like, yo, I'm probably never going to be able to go to a day party. Like, it's just a reality. Or it's like, and that adds to depression too, because you feel left out, or like, not necessarily left out, but like, you just, I don't know, I just get sad, like, yo, I'm probably going to have to like waste a PTO day that I could put toward going on a longer trip because I want to have one day of fun or get away from one day, So it's just like seeing people on Instagram who, even if I don't know what they do, I'm like, now I want to know, because how are you on your 8th trip for the year? And I haven't been anywhere since January. Like, you kind of become a hater in a sense. Like, dang, I wish I could do these things. And so that's why for me, I try to just be like, you know what, Lo, like, stay in your own lane. You will get there. And also, you don't know what people are going through. Like, the person that is on their 8th vacation, you don't know how they got that eighth vacation. And I don't want to know, because what people be out here doing, child.
Yeah.
Or they could be in a job that just gives them a lot of PTO, but they really hate it. Or maybe they're trying to escape their terrible living situation and they just want to get away. or maybe they are also experiencing post-grad depression, and the only way for them to, I guess, not feel those feelings so intensely is to hop on a flight to Miami. Like, you know, everybody goes through different peaks and valleys at different times. So when you're feeling like you're in a valley, why compare yourself to that person's peak? I guess I should say.
I kind of have a question for you guys. So, like, going through all of this, do you guys, or I think this question is kind of more for Lauren, but, like, do you think that, like, your relationships, I mean, obviously your relationships with people changed because, like, it's a completely different situation, but, like, did you see that, like, negatively impacting your post-grad depression at all? Just because I guess you've been out of school longer, so I don't know really about you, but did you see that happening at all? Like your relationships with your friends, who you're friends with, who you're closer with, and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think because like all of my friends have graduated at different times. I have friends who graduated with you. I have friends who graduated with Eden. I have friends who graduated with me, and then people before. And so I feel like we all experienced our depression, post-grad depression at different times. And then some of us were willing to acknowledge that we were experiencing it, and then some people were not. And I feel like I'm closer to the people who openly talk about their feelings. And I've always been like that. Like, even when I've been younger, people who I feel like are able to be transparent and be authentic and real about what they're feeling, I'm naturally going to be drawn to those people versus people who are in denial about how they feel. And I think that it did. Like, I lost a lot of friends who were close to me post-grad because they are figuring themselves out, or maybe they moved away and you know, they had another layer of depression added, or just kind of like losing touch with people. I wasn't expecting that. But I guess to be realistic, like if somebody's living thousands and thousands of miles away from you and you're used to seeing them every day, and then they're also getting adjusted to a new job and a new life, and now, you know, living on their own and paying actual rent, blah, blah, blah. Like you start to kind of fade away. And then you thought, oh, you know, this person was my best friend in school and we used to talk about everything. But, you know, now you haven't talked to them in 6 months. You don't know who they're dating. You don't know, you know, how their life is going. You don't know really anything about them. And so it's like either you decide to play catch up and you decide to play that game of, oh, you know, when you come in town, we're going to hang out, or, oh, you know, let's make a date for us to all go to brunch. It's like, it's just not realistic anymore. And that's the sad reality too of like graduating, because you go from being able to skip your ass over to your friend's apartment or get on the purple bus and come pull up on me in Courtyards to now you have to actually plan out. And I think once people realize that our friendships go from low maintenance to high maintenance, they don't want to do it anymore. And I'm one of those people.
I 100% agree.
I'm one of those people too. I will admit that if I feel like I'm in a friendship and it's, you know, I have to put too much effort just to hang out with you, just to talk to you, just to see you, or you're always busy, or I'm always busy, it's just easier for me to gravitate away from it. And it's just like, it is what it is.
Just in what you're saying though, like, I feel like everyone, and it's not like necessarily our fault, like it's kind of like the way like we're like conditioned to be, but we're just so worried about like the goal. Like everything is always surrounded around like this goal. Like I'm gonna get into this grad school, I'm gonna get this job, and then I'm gonna like you know, like people have like goals for when they're gonna get married, when they're gonna have kids, and like their only like I guess goal is to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And then when like they don't realize that like that goal isn't necessarily what's gonna make them, you know, happy or feel fulfilled. It's
exactly.
Like they have to like enjoy the journey as well. Like you can't just think that you're like really sad and then once you get this one thing, it's just everything's gonna change and your life's gonna be perfect.
It would never be perfect. Like literally, people are like, oh, when I get money, I'm gonna be happy. Then they get money and then they are more depressed and suicidal than they've ever been. You know, like I know people who literally make $90,000 a year at our age, and they're the most unhappy people I've ever met. And then I know people who are making $30,000 and will literally do anything for their job, for their coworkers, for the people they work like for, and they're absolutely in love with what they do. And so it's like, I can't give you all the keys, guys. Like I can't be like, all I could do is share what I did, which was go to the gym. I lost so much weight. My God, I lost like 30 pounds, and then I probably gained it right back because I'm sad again. Um, I don't know. I just like put all my energy into like my career and into like moving out into my own space, into like I got really into like I don't know why I got really into astrology. I feel like I just wanted to understand myself, and that was like the easiest way for me to be like, okay, this is why I do this, because this planet is in this house, and this is my rising, and this blah, blah, blah. Like me understanding myself. I guess that's why I'm so passionate about it, is because like you have to know who you are to know where you're going. And so I just felt like if I find out like who I am, or who I was like born to be, I guess that's the dramatic way of saying it, I would have this all figured out. And clearly I don't have shit figured out. So it's really no way.
I think like it would like my coping mechanism, or not coping mechanism actually, but like something I would say to people is like all like, even though like I feel like people think of it negatively, like I did, like I don't have a job, I don't have this, I don't have that, like I need to be here in my life. But you have to remember that like this is like the only time in your life, if you don't have a job straight out of undergrad, that is, that you are literally like you have like a couple months to like really find out who you are, you know, what you want to do with your life, like what you're interested what you're even interested in. And I think that's kind of what helped me. So me and a couple of my friends got like super interested in this one project that we like kind of started. And like I put like I found out that I have all this creativity that I like didn't even know like existed. And so I feel like it's really a time where you can like sit down and find out like what you want, and like what you want to do isn't one thing. Like you can do multiple things with your life and simultaneously. And so like it's really a time to figure that out. And so you kind of got to look at it as like, okay, I have all this time that I could really like cultivate, you know, like some hobby, some interest, some like, you know, something about yourself that you didn't know you knew before.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely like in this wave of my like depression. For me, it's podcasting. Like I have so many ideas, and I feel like I have so many good. I guess this is my coping mechanism, I guess.
Oh yeah, the podcast.
Yes, because I have so many great like conversations with my friends, like whether it's over text, whether it's on FaceTime or whatever. And I was like, yo, I need to broadcast these, because not just because I be dropping gems because y'all know, but it's because like a lot of things that I share, I feel like other people are listening and be like, yo, me too. And I get so many DMs like once the episodes air of people being like, I didn't know that you experienced that, and thank you for talking about it publicly. Like I appreciate you talking about it, because a lot of people don't talk, like whatever the topic could be, about anything. Like I remember one time I was talking about like me, what was I saying? I was saying something about me like growing up in a family that like really wasn't affectionate, and this girl reached out to me about, I'm not gonna like spill her tea, but about like going through something similar, and how like she didn't realize that it was because blah blah blah. And I was just like, oh, okay, let me find out. I'm out here helping folk, like. And so that has become like the source of my joy. Like even on days where I'm just like, I don't care about, you know, my career, I don't care about anything, I don't want to go to work, whatever. Like the thing that you have to just find, the one thing that keeps you going. And for me, it's knowing that I have people that tune in every week or every other week or whenever to listen to what I have to say. Like, you know, so it's just like everybody just find that one thing.
I think like, I don't know, Eden, I guess, can speak to her photography, but I feel like that's the photography. But like, you really have the opportunity now to like go on with that.
Yeah, like I have so much time now, and like I got new equipment as a graduation present, and I've just been having all these ideas because like they just seem so much more attainable. But now it's also like trying to filter through what I actually want to photograph, trying to like siphon through what I do and don't want to do.
No, yeah, that's important.
I feel like my advice to people usually who are trying to still figure everything out is like, take as much time as you need. Like I wish I will pay you, Eden, to go to work for me to like in the next couple of days. Please, like go to work for me tomorrow, bro. Like you can have it. Because if I just had 3 days just to sleep, just to do nothing, I will go back. I will go back to school just so, like, when I come home, all I gotta do is my homework, and then I'll be off on the weekend. Like, I will literally do anything to have that back. And it's just like, I rushed through just because I wanted the satisfaction of saying I have a job. I rushed through that process. I wish I would have took more time to discover myself and, like, hone in on my passion, start my podcast earlier, because I feel like I would have been so much further and I would have been developing the craft so much more. Maybe I would have actual sponsors by now. So it's just like, take this time to just, if you want to focus on photography, focus on photography. If you wake up tomorrow, you're like, maybe I want to paint, bro. Like, do whatever you want to do, because you may not ever have the luxury of time. So I guess I'm weak. I guess it's time, like, to give, because we've been talking for a good minute. I guess it's time to give, like, takeaways. And so I guess I can do, like, maybe 2 or 3, and then you guys can share final takeaways from this. For me, I feel like people should just learn balance, like, just because if you're not working or if you're not satisfied with where you are, like, live your life, like, study something, pick up a hobby, work out more, like, find something that you really enjoy doing and do that. Also, just don't compare yourself to other people. And then lastly, understand, because I feel like a lot of people our age, like, are constantly searching for, like, to find their passion, to find the one thing that you're good at. And I think a lot of people forget that, like, your purpose isn't aligned with, like, what you do, but who you are. So instead of focusing on, like, the job being the thing that makes you, like, focus on your character, focus on, like, learning more about yourself, focus on your family, focus on building strong relationships and connections with people, because you never know, like, what that will lead to, you know? So I think if you guys are feeling stuck, if you guys are feeling confused, like, I'm definitely down to talk to people. But those are just my takeaways for now. What do you guys think?
Wow.
No, go first. Go first.
Just, like, to keep it simple, take time to heal and, I guess, decompress from school, but also don't get too comfortable doing absolutely nothing for too long, because it's going to make it extremely hard to bounce back from that. But try to have some kind of structure, but allow yourself some time to actually, like, de-stress and reevaluate your goals and all that.
My first one is what I've been saying, which is really take some time to find out who you are. And I honestly think who you are also has to do with what you want to do with your life. And that also has to do with what creative outlets you want to do. Like, it encompasses all of that. Really got to sit down and learn, you know, what you really want and not what your parents want, not what you studied, you know, all that stuff. And then my second one would be, honestly, to keep an open line of communication with your friends. I think that I've done a really terrible job at that. And I think that my friends have also done a really terrible job at that. And I think, like, that really affects, like, how you do after post-grad. You know, you have to really, if you're not open with your friends, I mean, you're not going to be open with your family, really. So who are you going to be? Who are you going to tell your problems to? And then my third thing would just be to not be so hard on yourself. Like, it's okay to not get that job. It's okay to, like, just not even apply to jobs for 2 to 3 months. Like, just, everyone works at their own pace. So don't beat yourself up, because I know I did a lot.
Speak on it now. This is good, guys. Well, first of all, I just want to thank y'all for speaking up about it, because, like I said, everybody else was like, sorry, busy, can't, won't do it. So thank you guys for just being open and being vulnerable, because I know it takes a lot to get on and talk about, you know, what you're feeling and what you've gone through or whatever. So thank you. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Guys, make sure to stream Time Flies by Rico Nasty. Bye.
Okay. You're
Bye.
Bye. See you next week.
Got this shit knocking.